Die Suid-Afrikaanse weermag is in 1912 gebore. Een rebellie en 2 wêreldoorloë later en ook etlike droogtes, oorstromings, 'n depressie en gevalle van binnelandse onrus, staan die weermag nou voor sy 75ste verjaardag. In die 3/4 eeu van sy bestaan het die Suid-Afrikaanse weermag 'n legendariese gevegsrekord en 'n gedigte reputasie opgebou.
You are now a member of the best army on the African continent and one of the best in the world. An army which serves all the people of our country. This army has become great through the efforts of individuals such as yourself.
Good evening. The Southwest Africa-Namibian peace process was placed in jeopardy today, the first day of the United Nations supervised transition to independence, as armed clashes took place between SWAPO insurgents and the Southwest African police. 38 infiltrators and 2 policemen were killed, and 14 members of the Southwest African police force were wounded in follow-up operations between Oshikango and Ruacana. A short while ago, Foreign Minister Pik Botha issued a statement in Windhoek saying he'd been in direct contact with the Secretary General of the United Nations, Dr. Perez de Cuellar, and had told him that a critical situation had arisen. Dr. de Cuellar had agreed that the armed incursion was a severe violation of the Security Council resolution agreed to by South Africa, Cuba, and Angola. The Secretary General said he would take immediate steps to prevent a recurrence of incidents of this nature. Mr. Botha said Dr. de Cuellar had agreed that there was a real danger of further incursions of this kind over the next few days. And South African security forces should be asked to assist the Southwest African police in guarding the border and ensuring the safety of the people of the region. Mr. Botha said the Secretary General had agreed to contact the head of the UNTAG forces, General Prem Chand, immediately. Earlier, Mr. Botha said the attacks amounted to a clear violation of agreements between South Africa, Angola, and Cuba, and they were a repudiation of the Security Council resolution approving those agreements. The Foreign Minister said the incursions also meant that SWAPO's written undertaking to the Secretary General that it would cease all hostile acts as of today was a farce and was meaningless. The Administrator General of Southwest Africa, Namibia, Mr. Louis Pina, has made arrangements with the United Nations Special Representative, Mr. Marty Artisari, for the wounded to be flown to hospital in a Defence Force helicopter, notwithstanding the confinement of Defence Force personnel to their bases. In Windhoek, a South African Foreign Affairs spokesman, Mr. Roland Darrell, gave details to newsmen about the timing of the attacks in relation to the official 6 a.m. commencement of the ceasefire.
It took place during the night, and part of it took place afterwards and part of it before. It was an ongoing, there were armed clashes that happened during that time. But whether it took place before or after, it's still a violation, a clear violation of the settlement plan.
What does this mean for the independence plan for Namibia?
Well, initially it requires an appropriate response from the Secretary General to ensure that the grave situation is remedied. Otherwise, it places the settlement process in severe peril.
A warning of possible trouble in the south of the territory was sounded earlier by the head of the South African delegation to the Joint Military Monitoring Commission, Colonel Johan Kutzer. The commission was formed last year to monitor violations in letter and spirit of the Geneva Protocol, and its functions have now been taken over by UNTAG. Colonel Kutzer told Cliff Saunders that a serious unresolved problem was that of SWAPO cadres remaining south of the 16th parallel in violation of the agreements.
This problem or this concern has been brought under the attention of UNTAG, and General Prem Chand is concerned with the problem of possible intimidation because SWAPO is south of the 16th parallel with the population of Southwest Africa, and has undertaken to give this his special personal attention. Also, the person or the representative from UNTAG that is responsible for fair elections has promised the chiefs of Ovambo that he will make this his main concern to see that no intimidation takes place before the elections.
Do you have any concrete proof of such violations?
The proof that we had is indisputable. We've got this proof from our intelligence sources. Also, the local population from Southwest Africa and Angola move freely across the border, and they have reported to us. There is no doubt that SWAPO is south of the 16th parallel.
UNTAG is now destined to take over your duties, or many of them. Do you think it will be an easy task?
I think firstly that monitoring cannot be done on trust. It must be investigated on the ground. UNTAG as a force from a foreign country will have difficulties on the ground. Firstly, I think they will have to acclimatize here. They're going to have language problems. They will have to make use of interpreters, and it is a vast country.
Interviewed earlier, Foreign Minister Pik Botha was cautiously optimistic about the effective implementation of the peace agreement. He told our political news staff that despite his concern about possible violations of the peace plan by SWAPO, South Africa genuinely desired to bring the independence process to a successful conclusion.
I think it will depend on the sincerity of all the other parties, whether this whole complicated network of agreements would be successfully implemented. It involves Cuba, the government in Luanda. It involves the Administrator General, the Secretary General's special representative, a large number of contingents from various other countries of the world.
So can I ask you, can the process still be torpedoed?
Of course the process can be torpedoed. Of course it can be torpedoed. There's no guarantee against that. But as it unfolds and as we move ahead, I believe the momentum would become so strong, the desire to complete it successfully would become so strong that it would be very foolish on the part of any party to try to torpedo it. But it is possible. Right at this moment, I can tell you, I am rather concerned about reports that SWAPO is not complying with the agreements reached. And that is a matter of concern to us, and I have expressed this concern to Mr. Atasari yesterday evening.
What will the effect be of events in Southwest Africa and Namibia on South Africa's foreign relations?
We have derived a lot of good publicity, positive publicity. The so-called destabilizing role of which we have been charged or accused has suddenly given way to a new appreciation of the positive role that we play, and that solutions of the problems of the region are just not possible without South Africa. In general, in business circles, in political circles abroad, South Africa has gained very positive publicity, and I predict will continue to reap positive benefits from this procedure.
A happier note was struck in Southwest Africa, Namibia today by the arrival of British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. She paid a brief visit to the British Signal Corps supporting UNTAG.
Mrs. Thatcher said she was glad that it was possible to visit Southwest Africa and Namibia to demonstrate British support for the work of the UN in helping to bring independence to the territory. In Windhoek, she was met by the Administrator General, Mr. Louis Pienaar, and the UN Secretary General's Special Representative, Mr. Marty Atasari. At Leipzig Military Base, she sympathized with the loss of 2 members of British Study Signals Regiment who died in a car crash at Otjiwarongo.
Our soldiers do many things the world over, sometimes defending our territory, sometimes in NATO, sometimes in Northern Ireland, sometimes in Hong Kong.
of the most colourful establishments in the South African Army is its alma mater, the South African Army College at Voortrekkerhoogte. The cornerstone of the main building, which today houses the college, was laid in 1902 by Lord Kitchener of Khartoum. Here, a rich and colourful tradition built up over many generations is symbolised in the traditional colours of fighting units, in the colourful uniforms, in the military bands. Earlier, used to accompany soldiers into battle, today the splendour at ceremonial occasions. All here against the background of Boer commandos and British regiments, the heritages of which live on in the emblems and flags of the various corps of the South African Army. But what is the role of the army in South Africa today? And what is the role of the individual in this army, which, for its size, is regarded as the best in the world? The South African Army, like the Swiss, is a citizen army, and has, in the recent past, proved that, like the Israelis, it can strike hard and fast. The South African Defence Force consists of 4 arms of the service, of which the Army is the largest. The other 3 are the Air Force, the Navy, and the medical services. The South African Air Force is responsible for air defence and offensive air operations. The Air Force also supports the Army during landward operations. The South African Air Force employs a variety of fixed-wing aircraft, such as strike, transport, and light aircraft, as well as various types of helicopters. For air defence, the Air Force uses sophisticated interceptor aircraft equipped with air-to-air missiles and guns, radar systems, and ground-to-air missiles. The Air Force and the Navy conduct combined maritime operations using helicopters and maritime reconnaissance aircraft. The role of the South African Navy is to undertake offensive and defensive operations to protect the country against any seaward threat. To this end, the Navy uses strike craft, submarines, frigates, patrol, and other specialized vessels. These vessels are equipped with a variety of guns, missiles, and other weapon systems. The role of the South African Medical Services is to supply continuous and comprehensive medical aid to each member of the Defence Force. In this way, the medical services give medical support to the Army, the Air Force, and Navy wherever they may operate from home base to operational area. The Chief of the Army, Lieutenant General Jan Geldenhuys, describes the role of the Army.
We have to plan and prepare ourselves for fighting the land battle. The land battle we can divide into 2 categories. Firstly, conventional warfare, and secondly, insurgency warfare. Now, the ultimate aim with both these 2 types of threats or war is to overthrow the government and to replace it with a government to the liking of the conquerors. By conventional warfare, I mean war in which one uses in the army tanks, field guns, armored cars, together with the weapon systems of the Air Force and the Navy, like aircraft, ships, submarines. But in the case of insurgency warfare, there is not such a direct threat against our own forces. The terrorist aims his actions against the population. The acts include soft intimidation like subversion and propaganda, and then they also apply hard intimidation, meaning arson, abduction, political assassination, assaults, and so on. The idea being that over a long period, the public or the population will lose its will to resist. So in this case, we have to include in our countermeasures, firstly, attacking the terrorists in their bases, secondly, to conduct border control operations to prevent infiltration, and thirdly, to conduct search and destroy operations against those terrorists who succeeded in infiltrating. Then there are also more defensive type operations like the protection of vulnerable points and the protection of the local population. This type of war we have been fighting with considerable success for a number of years in Southwest Africa.
Insurgency and conventional warfare must not be viewed in isolation. During counter-insurgency operations, it may be necessary to employ conventional warfare forces and tactics. The aim is to destroy the enemy's military potential by offensive operations conducted by formally organized combat forces. Operations such as Reindeer, Smoke Shell, and Protea are good examples. An insurgency war can escalate into a conventional war. The civil war in Angola is a good example. After the existing order and authority was eliminated, a civil war started, which, backed by Russian and Cuban support, developed into a semi-conventional war. Both the insurgency and the conventional effort succeeded, and a Marxist regime was established in Angola. The insurgent's acts of terror are aimed at the local population. He avoids contact with the security forces and attacks soft targets. His primary aim is to destroy the existing political system and to replace it with a Marxist government. To achieve this, he uses every available political, economical, and military coercive measure. Intimidation, abduction, sabotage, murder, and other forms of terrorism are used to intimidate the population, destroy their will to resist, and to break down their confidence in the defense mechanisms of the country. The aim, in short, is revolution. The task of the security forces is to protect the population against acts of terrorism, to maintain a high standard of morale and of confidence in the government's ability to overcome the insurgents' threat. The enemy's effort to subvert the morale of our own forces must be neutralized and his military potential destroyed. The public relations officer of the Army, Colonel Maak, explains the organization of the Army.
To meet the dual threat, the South African Army is organized, equipped and trained for both types of warfare. Counterinsurgency units are under command of the 8 territorial commands. The territorial commands are responsible to conduct counterinsurgency operations in their areas. The territorial commands are Western Province Command, Southern Cape, Eastern Province, Natal, Orange Free State, Witwatersrand, Northern Transvaal, and Northwestern Command. Units for the conventional land battle are organized into brigades and divisions located at strategic places in the Republic. 7 Infantry Division in Kensington, 8 Armored Division in Johannesburg, with brigades at Johannesburg, Alberton, Potchefstroom, Durban and Cape Town.
Most members of the South African Army are ordinary citizens doing soldiering on a part-time basis. The permanent force is responsible for the administration and training of this part-time army. National servicemen are the main source of manpower of the South African Army. They are annually called up for training. Full-time force units consisting of permanent force leaders and national servicemen in training form the force in being. The force in being can be deployed for operations at very short notice. On completion of their initial period of training, national servicemen are posted to units of the citizen force or commando force. Citizen force and commando force units form the part-time force of the South African Army. Units of the part-time force must be called up and receive refresher training before they can be employed operationally. The citizen force consists of conventional warfare and counter-insurgency units and is the backbone of the Army's fighting capability. These forces are not area-bound and can be deployed anywhere for counter-insurgency or conventional operations.
Waarnemer kan verskaf wat daar reeds 1400 uur vanmiddag by hom sal aansluit in sy versamelgebied. Okay, goed, dan moet jy nou net koördineer waar kom hierdie waarnemers bymekaar. Dan vat jy daai doelwit 1600 uur en sorg dat jy klaar is 1630.
The commando force is urban, rural and industrial commandos. They are spread all over the Republic. Most commando members are area-bound and will only be employed in their own domestic areas to combat insurgency. Rural commandos are responsible for effective area protection and intelligence coverage. Urban commandos are employed for protective tasks and provide reaction forces in urban areas. Industrial commandos protect key points and adjacent industries. Because the threat against the Republic is aimed at the entire population, members of all population groups serve in the South African Army. To utilize the female power resources of the country, women have been recruited into the Army since 1971. This releases more men for operational employment. Women are, however, not involved in active combat against the enemy. They are employed in a variety of support tasks in the various corps. The South African Army regards the individual soldier as its biggest single asset, and every measure is taken to restrict casualties in training and operations to the absolute minimum. To achieve this, sound planning, thorough preparation, and hard and intensive training are essential. Training takes place progressively and systematically, and is directed at steeling the soldier not only to win every battle, but to survive it. From the start, great value is placed on physical fitness because it provides the soldier with the stamina to cope with the stresses and strains. Because it provides the soldier with the stamina to cope with the stresses and strains of battle. In battle, it is the fit soldier who stands the best chance of survival. The motto is, sweat saves blood. Infantry Corps, the Armoured Corps, and the South African Artillery. In operations, the teeth arms are supported by the supporting arms, the Anti-Aircraft Artillery, Engineer Corps, and Corps of Signals. Further support in operations is rendered by the various services: Personnel Services Corps, Ordnance Services Corps, Technical Services Corps, SA Corps of Military Police, SA Corps of Musicians, SA Catering Corps, SA Intelligence Corps, and Finance Services Corps. Women are, however, not involved in active combat against the enemy. They are employed in a variety of support tasks in the various corps. The South African Army regards the individual soldier as its biggest single asset, and every measure is taken to restrict casualties in training and operations to the absolute minimum. To achieve this, sound planning, thorough preparation, and hard and intensive training are essential. Training takes place progressively and systematically, and is directed at steeling the soldier not only to win every battle, but to survive it. From the start, great value is placed on physical fitness because it provides the soldier with the stamina to cope with the stresses and strains of battle. In battle, it is the fit soldier who stands the best chance of survival. The motto is, sweat saves blood.
On your own target! On your own time! Carry on!
The members of all corps follow a standard program of basic training in which emphasis is placed on skill at arms, physical fitness and battle drills. Much attention is also given to subjects such as camouflage and concealment, buddy aid and map reading.
Enemy observed! Reference point, green bush! Reference point, green bush! Enemy in green bush! Enemy in green bush! Fire! Fire! Cease fire! Cease fire! One phase, left flanking attack! One phase, left flanking attack! LMG group, remain! LMG group, remain here! LMG group, up!
During basic training, the soldier is taught to work with his fellow soldiers and to place his interest subordinate to those of the team. Another important principle is that all leaders are required to ensure that subordinates are cared for in every possible way. Self-discipline and a high standard of neatness in appearance and equipment are essential. He must execute orders smartly and promptly, and must put the interests of the group above his own. In this way, he becomes an asset to his platoon, his company, his unit, his army.
Jordan, your rifle is dirty. It's sunscreen on here. Number? 8118. Yes? 3956.
After basic training, the members of the various corps follow their own individual training programs to qualify themselves in their own battle drills and the use and handling of their own particular weapons and equipment. Repetitive training is essential. It makes the handling of weapons and the execution of battle drills second nature to the soldier. His conscious intellectual capacity is then free to outsmart the enemy. The precision and attention to detail he learnt during basic training are now related to his weapons and equipment. This is reinforced again and again. After each phase, the soldier's standard of training is evaluated. A soldier is employed operationally only after he has reached the required standard of training. Sport is an integral part of military training. All types of sport promote fitness, perseverance, discipline, and the will to win. Individual sport contributes to the development of the individual's personality. Team sport promotes teamwork and esprit de corps. Potted sport enables the soldier who does not excel in any particular sport to reap the benefits of participation in sport. The wide variety of weapons, technical equipment, vehicles and other armaments, as well as the vast diversity of activities found in modern warfare, demand specialization. In the South African Army, specialization is achieved by having different corps, each with its specific role, characteristics, and weapon systems. Within each corps, there are various musterings, each performing a specific task. A combat force is composed of units or elements of the different corps, each with a specific function, but integrated to form an effective fighting force. The size and shape of such a force is tailored to meet the nature and scope of the operation involved. Infantry Corps, the Armoured Corps, and the South African Artillery. In operations, the teeth arms are supported by the supporting arms, the Anti-Aircraft Artillery, Engineer Corps, and Corps of Signals. Further support in operations is rendered by the various services: Personnel Services Corps, Ordnance Services Corps, Technical Services Corps, SA Corps of Military Police, SA Corps of Musicians, SA Catering Corps, SA Intelligence Corps, and Finance Services Corps. They are responsible for the supply of water, field survey, and the drawing and printing of maps. The corps badge of the engineers is a bursting grenade. In 1944, King George VI authorized the addition of 2 more flames to the existing 7 in recognition of outstanding service rendered by the South African Engineer Corps during the Second World War. Their motto is Ubique, everywhere. The Corps of Signals supplies the internal post and telecommunication services of the South African Army. They supply the telecommunications which integrate the activities of the teeth arms, supporting arms, and supporting services. Signalers use radios, radio telephones, teleprinters, telephone systems, and other telecommunications equipment. The Corps of Signals is also responsible for the maintenance of all electronic equipment. Reliable telecommunications is of the utmost importance in modern warfare. The motto of the Corps of Signals is Certa Quito, speed with accuracy. The Personnel Services Corps is responsible for the personnel administration of members of the South African Army. Members of this corps are stationed at the various formation headquarters and at units. They take care of the recruiting, selection, and posting of members of the Army. The motto of the Personnel Services Corps is Humani Servi Homini, serve man in a humane way. A fighting force in the field requires vast amounts of war material. The Ordnance Services Corps is responsible for the supply of ammunition, fuel, rations, and other essential items to the fighting elements. Good logistics is the supply of the correct ordnance in the required quantities at the correct time and place. To do this, the Ordnance Services Corps uses road, air, and marine transport. Their motto is Fons sine qua non, the indispensable fountain. The Technical Services Corps is responsible for keeping the wheels of the Army rolling. They also repair all weapons and equipment, excluding telecommunications equipment, varying from a sensitive compass to a massive tank. The The principle is that repairs must be carried out as far forward as possible. This ensures that weapons and equipment are again made available for active service with the minimum delay. When vehicles, weapons and equipment cannot be repaired on the spot, they are recovered to installations further back. A corps of military police is the police force and traffic police of the army. Apart from the role of law enforcers, military police are also responsible for security and protection tasks. During operations, they ensure the smooth flow and proper control of convoys and military columns. Military bands do not accompany fighting elements to the front anymore. Music, however, is still part of the tradition, the ceremony, and the splendor of military occasions. The SA Army Corps of Musicians has 51 bands to supply this music. Napoleon once said, "An army marches on its stomach." Nourishing, well-prepared food plays an important role in the health and morale of the soldier. The SA Catering Corps is responsible for supplying the South African soldier with food. The Corps uses modern kitchens and mobile units of various sizes for use in the field. Chefs are also trained to improvise when modern conveniences are not available. The motto of the Catering Corps is Nutrimus ut animus capiatur. We feed for courage. The Intelligence Corps of the South African Army is responsible for combat intelligence and civic action in the Army. The Corps has representatives at all headquarters in the Army. The motto of the Corps is Exploratio, to explore. The Finance Services Corps runs the Army's financial affairs. Further support in operations is rendered by the various services: Personnel Services Corps, Ordnance Services Corps, Technical Services Corps, SA Corps of Military Police, SA Corps of Musicians, SA Catering Corps, SA Intelligence Corps, and Finance Services Corps. The South African Infantry Corps is the largest corps in the Army and plays the biggest role in any conventional or counter-insurgency war. The role of the infantry, whether motorized, mechanized, airborne, or mounted in any other type of transport, is to seek and destroy the enemy.
Section number 1! Amal! Yen! 900! Amal! Yen! 900! Pavier! Pavier! Wef! Vol! Wef! Vol! Rechts en links 2 palmslagen! Rechts en links 2 palmslagen! Up! Up! Green!
The task of the infantrymen is to defeat the enemy in hand-to-hand battle. The infantrymen can do this under all weather conditions, on any type of terrain, by day or by night. The infantryman carries his weapons and equipment with him and is therefore easily transported by vehicle, aircraft, ship, or on horseback. Infantry battalions have their own support weapons and can therefore operate independently for limited periods. The battalion possesses rifles, machine guns, mortars, anti-tank weapons, and a variety of grenades, which gives it high firepower. The weapons and equipment of the infantrymen are compact and light. This enables him to make use of natural cover and to blend in with his environment. Further protection is afforded by trenches, slit trenches, and armored and mine-protected vehicles. As far back as the 18th century, the infantry was described by Sir William Napier as the queen of battle. Infantry can gain and hold ground. Without infantry, this is not possible. Only the fit and well-trained soldier will survive in battle. Infantry training is therefore hard, intensive, and realistic. Slogans are, the more you sweat in training, the less you sweat in battle. Train hard and fight easy. The motto of the infantry is exerce perfectione, strive for perfection. The South African Army has two types of artillery, field branch artillery and anti-aircraft artillery. It is with artillery that war is made, Napoleon said in 1809. Field branch artillery provides fire support to its own forces in battle. Fire support is aimed at killing and neutralizing the enemy and at destroying his weapons and installations. A further role of artillery is to neutralize hostile weapon systems by accurate counter-bombardment so that they cannot be used against our own forces. The primary role of artillery is fire support in battle, but when its resources are employed independently, it becomes a teeth arm in its own right.
Infantry company open, skieten uit. Waterry bestoken!
Field branch artillery is synonymous with firepower. To deliver maximum fire support, it is organized as a weapon system with a blunt end from where the weapon is launched and the sharp end where the destructive effect of the weapon is achieved. At the sharp end, the artillery provides observation, assists with the acquisition of targets, and advises the supported forces on the employment of firepower. Observation and fire control are done by observation post officers. They transmit fire orders and corrections to the gun positions for the delivery of fire on the target. Observation post officers can be positioned on high ground, can travel in aircraft or armored vehicles or on foot, with fighting forces to observe fire and transmit fire orders to the blunt end. Further data and artillery intelligence required for fire control are supplied by locating elements. Locating artillery uses sound ranging equipment, radar, and other electronic systems to acquire targets. It also surveys target areas and gun positions and collects meteorological data. This data is transmitted to the blunt end. The blunt end is mainly involved with data processing and fire control. Here, the guns, mortars and rocket launchers are directed according to the data obtained from observation post officers locating artillery and other sources of intelligence. From here, the weapons of the field branch artillery, the projectile. The South African Infantry Corps is the largest corps in the army and plays the biggest role in any conventional or counter-insurgency war. The role of the infantry, whether motorized, mechanized, airborne, or mounted in any other type of transport, is to seek and destroy the enemy.
Section nummer 1! Section nummer 1! Allemaal 1! 900! Allemaal 1! 900! Bal 4! Bal 4! Wap! Goal! Wap! Goal! Rechts en links 2 palmslaan! Rechts en links 2 palmslaan! Rechts! Up! Up! 3!
The task of the infantrymen is to defeat the enemy in hand-to-hand battle. The infantrymen can do this under all weather conditions, on any type of terrain, by day or by night. The infantryman carries his weapons and equipment with him and is therefore easily transported by vehicle, aircraft, ship, or on horseback. Infantry battalions have their own support weapons and can therefore operate independently for limited periods. The battalion possesses rifles, machine guns, mortars, anti-tank weapons, and a variety of grenades, which gives it high firepower. The weapons and equipment of the infantrymen are compact and light. This enables him to make use of natural cover and to blend in with his environment. Further protection is afforded by trenches, slit trenches, and armored and mine-protected vehicles. As far back as the 18th century, the infantry was described by Sir William Napier as the queen of battle. Infantry can gain and hold ground. Without infantry, this is not possible. Only the fit and well-trained soldier will survive in battle. Infantry training is therefore hard, intensive, and realistic. Slogans are, the more you sweat in training, the less you sweat in battle. Train hard and fight easy. The motto of the infantry is Exerce Perfectione, strive for perfection.
Knie onmiddellijk bij elkaar.
Hou dan binnen bij elkaar. Bij elkaar. Aan de af, aan de op. Staan jouw helmen eruit, man.
The South African Army has two types of artillery, field branch artillery and anti-aircraft artillery. It is with artillery that war is made, Napoleon said in 1809. Field branch artillery provides fire support to its own forces in battle. Fire support is aimed at killing and neutralizing the enemy and at destroying his weapons and installations. A further role of artillery is to neutralize hostile weapon systems by accurate counter-bombardment so that they cannot be used against our own forces. The primary role of artillery is fire support in battle, but when its resources are employed independently, it becomes a teeth arm in its own right.
Infantry company open, skieten uit.
Waterry bestoken!
Field branch artillery is synonymous with firepower. To deliver maximum fire support, it is organized as a weapon system with a blunt end from where the weapon is launched and the sharp end where the destructive effect of the weapon is achieved. At the sharp end, the artillery provides observation, assists with the acquisition of targets, and advises the supported forces on the employment of firepower. Observation and fire control are done by observation post officers. They transmit fire orders and corrections to the gun positions for the delivery of fire on the target. Observation post officers can be positioned on high ground, can travel in aircraft or armored vehicles, or on foot, with fighting forces to observe fire and transmit fire orders to the blunt end. Further data and artillery intelligence required for fire control are supplied by locating elements. Locating artillery uses sound ranging equipment, radar, and other electronic systems to acquire targets. It also surveys target areas and gun positions and collects meteorological data. This data is transmitted to the blunt end. The blunt end is mainly involved with data processing and fire control. Here, the guns, mortars and rocket launchers are directed according to the data obtained from observation post officers, locating artillery and other sources of intelligence. From here, the weapons of the field branch artillery, the projectile or rocket, are launched at the target. Field branch artillery is highly mobile, possesses sophisticated equipment, and its employment techniques ensures rapid, accurate, and destructive fire support. The motto of artillery elsewhere in the world is ubique, everywhere. To this, the South African field artillery has added primus incedere exire ultimus, first in and last out. One of the most effective enemy weapons which can be used against our ground forces is air power. The enemy employs air power to destroy our installations and equipment and to stop the momentum of a ground attack. Anti-aircraft artillery protects our own forces against enemy air power. A further important role is to protect installations in the heartland of the Republic against air attacks. The most important characteristic of anti-aircraft artillery is its short reaction time. Fast and low-flying aircraft are not easily traced on radar. This leaves the gunner only seconds to aim and fire his guns accurately at the target. Anti-aircraft artillery employs a variety of guns and missiles that supplement each other against attacking enemy aircraft. The accuracy of the weapons is equally important. Accuracy, coupled with a high rate of fire, increases the hit and destroy capability of the weapon system. Two 35mm guns, for instance, can deliver more than 100 accurately placed shots within 3 seconds on a target 4 kilometers away. To react quickly and to be able to deliver accurate fire requires that anti-aircraft weapons be reliable. It is also essential to have efficient ammunition. A single hit by a shell or rocket must be able to destroy an enemy aircraft. The motto of the anti-aircraft artillery is Alta Petty, aim high. The iron fist of the South African Army is the Armored Corps. In the Armored Corps, we find the best combination of firepower and mobility. The cross-country ability of armored fighting vehicles enables them to engage and destroy targets from a variety of firing positions. Accurate, rapid-fire guns deliver destructive, direct-aimed fire on targets. The armor plate of armored fighting vehicles protect the crews from small arms fire and shrapnel. Skilled, resourceful and determined crews enable the Iron Fist to concentrate firepower or to change rapidly from one target to the other. Snap orders, instant reactions and reliable radio communications enable armor to act with lightning speed. The prospect of an armored attack with its accompanying shock action is a constant source of anxiety to the enemy. During the attack, the accurate, direct fire of armor plays a decisive role. Such fire destroys enemy weapons and positions and is a deadly force against an enemy without armor protection. Through mobile, aggressive action, armor penetrates deep into enemy territory to destroy him, his equipment, and his installations. The main armament of the armored corps are tanks and armored cars. Armored cars are designed to move silently when used in a reconnaissance role. Tanks offer the highest degree of armored protection and have exceptional cross-country performance and immense firepower. Armor is aggressively employed, geared for the attack rather than defense. Armored cars in the South African Army are more heavily armed than in other armies, so that they can be employed more aggressively. Armor makes heavy demands on logistic support. The movement of armor is restricted by certain types of terrain, such as mountains, marshes, and forests. It is, however, still the corps with the highest firepower and mobility. The slogan of the Armored Corps is, "I will go anywhere, as long as it is forward," because in war, there is no alternative to victory. Members of the Engineer Corps are the military civil engineers of the South African Army. The role of the engineers is to increase the mobility of our forces and at the same time to impede that of the enemy. To do this, engineers must be able to build or destroy bridges and roads. Engineers create obstacles by means of mines, craters, barbed wire, and other material. They locate and destroy enemy mines. Engineers also build field bases and defense works.
Die Suid-Afrikaanse weermag is in 1912 gebore. Een rebellie en 2 wêreldoorloë later, en ook etlike droogtes, oorstromings, 'n depressie en gevalle van binnelandse onrus, staan die weermag nou voor sy 75ste verjaardag. In die 3/4 eeu van sy bestaan, het die Suid-Afrikaanse weermag 'n legendariese gevegsrekord en 'n gedigte reputasie opgebou.
You are now a member of the best army on the African continent and one of the best in the world. An army which serves all the people of our country. This army has become great through the efforts of individuals such as yourself.
Dit was generaal Kat Liebenberg se verwelkoming aan die eerste inname van nuwe dienspligtiges nadat hy hoof van die leer geword het. Die Suid-Afrikaanse weermag is meer as net 'n oorlogsmasjien. Dit word aangewend as 'n beskermende koepel waaronder die volk ongehinderd met sy huishouding kan voortgaan. Op sy lang pad van diens was daar natuurrampe. Die gebeure by Laingsburg is nog vars in die geheue.
Die baie moeilike en treurige taak, die soek na lyke en hierdie opdrifsels en puin, het vandag in alle erns begin. Die weermag en die Suid-Afrikaanse polisie is hier betrokke. Dit bly rugbreek en moeilike werk. Hier lê massas, tonne van hierdie dryfsand en om daardeur te werk bly 'n ontsettende taak.
Tydens die Des Moines vloed is byna alle verbindings met Swaziland verbreek. Berigte en gerugte van ernstige oorstromings is ontvang.
Die landse minister van Buitelandse Sake, meneer R.V. Dlamini, sê Suid-Afrika was die eerste land wat op sy land se beroep om hulp gereageer het. Hy sê dit is 'n goeie teken van buurskap as soldate gebruik kan word om brûe van samewerking oor landsgrense heen te bou. Benewens helikopters en om mense mee te red, het die weermag ook sowat 120 tente en 9000 komberse aan inwoners van Swaziland verskaf.
Die Suid-Afrikaanse weermag se taak begin en eindig nie by oorlog nie. Maar as dit in die uitoefening van sy beskermingsfunksie na sy kant toe kom, sal hy hom by die stryd inwerp, met volle oorgawe, vinnig en doeltreffend. Dit is die benadering tot enige bedreiging. Dit is juis in die uitlewing van hierdie beginsels dat die weermag in die onlusgebiede ontplooi is. Die resultaat daarvan, en die afkondiging van 'n noodtoestand, was 'n dramatiese afname in onrusinsidente. Hiervoor bestaan daar groot waardering.
Ek wil net graag vir die troepe baie dankie sê, die wat heersend nog optree in die binnelandse situasie, die wat in die verlede opgetree het en byvoorbeeld aan die wat nog gaan optree. En as ek praat van troepe, dan sit ek natuurlik daarby in die korporaals, dit wil sê al die onderoffisiere onder wie hulle gedien het, die luitenante en al die ander offisiere onder wie hulle hierdie operasies voer. Dan praat ek ook nie van 'n spesifieke groep nie. Ek praat van die spligtiges wat besig is met hulle eerste 24 maande. Ek praat van burgermag en kommandotroepe en ander, want eintlik is daar vir my baie min verskil. Ons doen almal dieselfde werk vir dieselfde einddoel. I think you have done a magnificent job and you are still doing it. Good show, thank you very much and keep it up.
Wel, toe ons hier aankom het ons gedink die gesindheid was eintlik baie sleg, want die kinders het weggehardloop. En toe het ek en die sergeant afgeloop daar na die skool toe en met so 'n paar ouens begin gesels. En ons het aan hulle verduidelik dat ons nie hier is om moeilikheid te maak nie, maar om na hulle te kyk. And once we got this over to them, they started coming back slowly. And then we spoke to the teachers and the headmaster and we managed to get an assembly together. When myself and the sergeant got up to talk, they were very, they booed us, they shouted at us, they were chanting. And once I managed to get a word in, and I can still remember we said to them that we can all sing together, but we can't all talk together. And we actually got a good response from that. And then we started explaining the reason why the SA Defence Force is in here as a peacekeeping force. Not to cause violence, but to maintain peace within this township. And their views on us were completely different. They thought we were here to shoot them. They hate our rifles. Why are we carrying rifles? And once we explained to them why we have to carry the rifle, why we are here, their views started to open a bit and they started conversing more with us. They were asking us all different types of questions. And once we had answered them, We had a fantastic response. The guys were invited in for coffee by the headmaster and the teachers. The children were here with us all day. The school closed at 3. We had a crowd of about 50 here with us till 6 o'clock that night when we left.
Wat moraal betref op hierdie stadium het die troepe dit uiters goed gehanteer. Dit is bykans kan ek sê ongelooflik. Daar was tye waar dit laer was as ander tye, maar dit was geensins op so 'n stadium dat dit enigstens 'n kommer vir ons ingehou het nie. Die manne het derentyd die situasie aanvaar. As hulle moes uitgaan, was daar nie gekerm en gekla nie. Die normale mens was daar nou maar gewees, maar hulle het op die buffels geklim en hulle taak gaan doen en hulle het hulle besonder goed van hulle taak gekwyt.
Mense raak baie meer volwasse ook hier. Want jy besef soos ons nog nie baie aksie eintlik gehad nie, maar omdat jy met lewendige rond is, het jy baie meer verantwoordelikheid ook. En dit maak jy meer volwasse ook.
Ek het 'n beter insig gekry van die swart persoon vandat ek hier is, as wat ek gehad het voor ek hier toe gekom het. So eintlik 'n ander ondervinding wat jy nooit eintlik gedink het jy sal kan ervaar nie.
Our viewpoints have changed a lot as far as seeing them in the way we see them now, the circumstances they're living in and things like that, and getting to know their way of living. And this has been magic, because the more we've been doing this, the more response we've had. The more questions we've had asked, the more we've been able to answer. And I think their feeling towards us has changed tremendously.
Verskeie van die swart leiers van die swart woongebiede, inwoners van die swart woongebiede, het briewe geskryf waarin hulle dank betuig vir die optrede van die veiligheidsmagte in die swart woongebiede. 'n sprekende voorbeeld hier was die brief wat ons ontvang het van die burgemeester van Mamelodi, meneer Ndlasi, waarin hy groot lof gehad het. Nie alleen vir wat gedoen is nie, maar op die wyse waarop die veiligheidsmagte in die swart woongebied optree.
Well, I must say, as far as the SADF personnel was concerned, I think they have worked very hard, and because of their hard work that they've put into the whole unrest situation in Mamelodi, they have worked a lot. And I think it is because of them that at least we have peace and stability.
Statistiek wat oor die afgelope jaar ingesamel is met betrekking tot die insidente wat plaasgevind het, bijvoorbeeld in Mamelodi, sien ons dat in Februarie maand was daar nie minder as 44 insidente gewees nie. Hierdie het drasties afgeneem tot 'n skrale 6 insidente tydens Julie maand.
Wat dink jy van so 'n padblokkade? Is dit
ook hulle help ons. Mense hulle gaan met die gewere in. Hulle skiet vir ons by die aand. Ek kan daai geld wat ek het om by die dag gewerk. 7 o'clock hulle vat hom. Nou wat jy op dit? Ek werk vir agter. Garage gaan nie sê nee. Hulle jou geld gevat nie. Vat jy hulle kar terug. Repossess. Ja. As die mense hier so is, ek voel happy. Is nie ek alleen nie. Ek dink most van hulle. Hulle is happy. As die mense hier so is. Ja, die mense hulle help ons. By die aand, hulle vang vir ons, dit is veel geld hê, die mense is around daar. Dit is voel lekker.
Oké. Sluit dit vir ons jou voertuig af, dan klim jy vir ons uit asseblief. Enige vuurwapens? Geen. Oké, hou net jou hande vir ons deur die voertuig. Oop met jou bene. Oké, maak jou boot op bykant.
But our experience was that the army has got the necessary amount of discipline, for which I think we can be thankful, because probably that is what has kept the level of violence in our area in particular lower than elsewhere.
The ANC terrorist organization loudly proclaimed that it would transform the period around June the 16th into a period of nationwide revolt and bloodshed. These plans failed. The Johannesburg newspaper The Star indicated that the ANC leader Oliver Tambo was highly disappointed and embarrassed over the entire affair. The peace now prevailing in the country has proven a setback for the ANC's artificially created reputation. This organization has insisted that virtually all blacks favor violent revolution and has tried to fan the flames of violence. This argument has failed, And if it is blaming the efficiency of the security forces for this failure, it is a feather in the cap of the forces. The ANC loses this argument anyway, because the security forces cannot compel people to return to work and resume peaceful pursuits, which is precisely what the people are doing.
The labour situation throughout the country was back to normal today. All the big mining houses reported that operations were in full swing, with all shifts reporting for duty. Chain store groups countrywide and other large employers reported a full complement of workers. Most bus services are also operating normally, and trains were full, ferrying commuters to the main centres.
Now, how did all this come about? Why the state of emergency? Who is the enemy? What does he want?
Wel, enig iemand wat nie weet dat Rusland agter hierdie revolusionêre aanslag in die RSA is nie, is of hy ingelig oor wat hier aangaan nie, of hy is hoegenaamd ingelig in wat in die hele wêreld aangaan. Dat hierdie revolusionêre aanslag in die RSA uit en uit deur Rusland georkestreer word en ten doel het om die huidige Suid-Afrikaanse demokratiese regering omver te werp en in die plek daarvan marxistiese regering te stel, is 'n feit. Dit is dan ook Rusland se langtermyn doelwit om dit te doen, wat ek net gesê het. En hiermee wil Rusland hou vas kry op die minerale rykdomme van Suid-Afrika, maar hy wil ook 'n vastrapplek kry in die strategiese suidpunt van Afrika. Dit word byvoorbeeld bevestig deur 'n verslag wat Petrov aan Gorbachev gedoen het. Ek kan dit vir u noem, vir u lees. Die verslag is na aanbevelings wat hy gedoen het na 'n besoek aan Zambië, na 'n besoek aan Zimbabwe, Angola en Mosambiek. En hy het die volgende gesê: die ANC en die SA Communistische Party bevoorrading met kleingeweer, ammunisie, springstof, handgrate en vuurpylaansteerders moet vergroot word vir gebruik in verhoogde stedelike terroristeoorlogvoering in die Republiek van Suid-Afrika. Tweede instansie, Zimbabwe word gebruik as stoor en toevoerroutes. En laaste is, wat baie belangrik is, die ANC en die Suid-Afrikaanse Kommunistische Party moet ten volle ondersteun word om chaos te veroorsaak, ook ten opsigte van die verskaffing van strategiese minerale aan die Weste, so die ISSR die hoofverskaffer aan die Weste kan word.
Peaceful democratic evolutionary development in South Africa forms no part of Soviet plans for Southern Africa. Destabilization is their business. For this, they use their willing slave, the ANC and its affiliates. They can make promises which they know they cannot keep. They can break those promises because they have no obligations or responsibilities towards the nation. They can break down and destroy. Building up is not their business. While all this is going on, South Africa itself must continue to function. The state may not take a break from carrying out the duties imposed on it. Above all, the security of ordinary men and women, their ability to go about their normal business without fear for their lives and property, had been eroded far beyond tolerable limits. This could not be tolerated.
I think that everybody who wants to ride a bus and can pay for it, possessions.
En dit is dan die scenario waaronder julle taak in die onrus situasie moet uitvoer. Ons lewe eintlik in 'n heterogene land met unieke kompleksiteite. Ons is wel besig om op die huidige stadium bedelings uit te werk wat sal verseker vir die welsyn van ieder en elk in hierdie land. Maar onthou, ons is van Afrika. Slegs ons kan daardie oplossings uitwerk. Beslis nie ander regerings van buite Suid-Afrika nie, nog minder weermagte van ander lande en allermins die kleefbom of die landmyn as sulks. Ons in die weermag is daar om 'n kalm klimaat te skep en te handhaaf, sodat hierdie evolusionêre prosesse onder 'n demokratiese bestel kan voortgaan. Ons sal voortgaan om hierdie taak uit te voer, want ons het die vermoë. Ons glo in onsself, maar alles belangrik, ons glo aan julle manne op die grond. Ons het die vertroue in julle en ons weet julle kan die taak doen.